Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Shiva Rezvan, a Connecticut Psychological Association Public Education team member. Welcome to the fourth episode of the interview series, Sharing Our Stories. As you know, our goal is to create a deeper connection between psychologists and the community. And today, I'm so excited to say that we have Dr. Klee, the former CPA President from 2017 till 2020. A warm welcome, Dr. Klee.
Thank you for having me, Shiva.
Thanks for accepting our invitation. So, my first question, would you please tell us briefly about yourself?
Sure. So I'm originally from New York, and I was an urban studies major in college, and I knew I wanted a career in like public mental health and public health. So after college, I worked at the, Shiva, can we take a time out because we just started and redo this? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Shiva Rezvan, a Connecticut Psychological Association Public Education team member. Welcome to the fourth episode of the interview series, Sharing Our Stories. As you know, our goal is to create a deeper connection between psychologists and the community. Today, I'm so excited to say that we have Dr. Klee, the former CPA President from 2017 till 2020. A warm welcome, Dr. Klee.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Rezvan.
Thanks for accepting our invitation. So my first question, would you please tell us briefly about yourself?
Sure. So for the past 19 years, I've worked at VA Connecticut Healthcare System. I work in the community mental health side of the shop and we work with individuals with serious mental illness and veterans experiencing homelessness. And I've been involved in this kind of work even before my starting at the VA. I had been involved while I was an intern and postdoc at Yale and then in New York City as well. So it's sort of been my professional area of interest for a long time.
Long time, yes. And how did you get into this field?
You know, it's interesting. I was an urban studies major as an undergrad, and I was very interested in people and public health and public mental health. And after college, I went to work for the New York City Health Department. And I started to say, well, I should go to grad school. So I started to look at master's in public health degrees and master's in social work degrees. And then I saw that there was a degree in clinical health psychology, and it sort of merged all my worlds. And then I'd have a PhD, and I'd have both the background information and the skills, the clinical skills, which I really thought were important. And so that's kind of how I came across it. It's not your typical story, I know, but it really, I've always had a public health, public mental health focus. So, you know, that's sort of what started me on this path.
Interesting. So tell us briefly about your day-to-day work and your crucial role in training the new generation.
Sure. So at VA Connecticut, I've been in different roles over the years, but currently I run what's called peer services. And so I hire and train and support people with lived mental health experience, veterans with lived mental health experience, and we make them part of our workforce. And so they're a part of all of our clinical teams, or many of our clinical teams. And so I'm very involved in this field locally and regionally and nationally as well, in addition to doing the day-to-day work with these co-workers now, these colleagues. I also am involved in some research, and I do consultation on research projects. trying to show the benefits and the support for this work for peer specialist services. And I do I'm sit on some national committees related to supporting the peer specialist workforce in the VA. And then the other hat that I wear at the VA, and since I started, I've been in this role. I've been the director of the Interprofessional Fellowship in Psychosocial Rehabilitation. And what that means is we train all different mental health professionals from different disciplines, from psychology, social work, psychiatry, occupational therapy, chaplaincy, to be involved in this work. And this work involves training them to work with individuals with serious mental illness in community mental health settings. And our definition of psychosocial rehabilitation is many of the veterans we serve really need the right skills and supports to be as independent as possible in the community. And that's really the work we do, is figuring out what are the clinical interventions we can do, what are the social interventions we can provide, and what are the economic interventions we can provide as well, so that they can lead as rich and fulfilling lives in the communities of their choices. And so I've been really fortunate to be in this role for the past 19 years, as I mentioned. And we have, I think, about 100 graduates from our program, and some have gone on to do amazing work all over the country. We keep in touch. So I'm very proud of the careers that our program has launched. And it's not just me, trust me, we have a whole training committee, very dedicated faculty to doing this work. And, very mission-focused colleagues is what I have. So it's really been an honor to be part of this.
Beautiful. So you have lots of responsibilities and you're doing beautiful work. Great. And would you please tell us, how did you get involved in professional organizations, and why is it important to get involved?
Sure. Well, I think it's very important. I've been involved in a number of organizations over the years. And I got my start because a senior colleague sort of took me under his wing and sort of gave me an opportunity. And I was pretty shy when I first started, and his name is Dr. Mike Neal. And Mike Neal was a research psychologist at the VA, and he was very involved in APA's Division 18 Psychologists in Public Service. And I had joined because I knew people like Mike were involved. And he said, Ann, would you like to be our early career rep? We have a new position. I think I was the first person in it, I think. And I said, well, what do I need to do? What does it entail? And he goes, I'll help you out. And it was really, very senior people. And I was asked to sit on some review committees, and I started really dip my toe in the pool. Really got a sense, just started to learn about how the organization worked. And I kind of liked it. It was really interesting. And then another opportunity came up, and again, Mike asked me, he said, we need a VA section chair. Would you like to run? And I was like, well, couldn't I be treasurer or secretary first? And he's like, well, we already have candidates for those positions. So I said, I know. So I said, okay. And I called 5 friends who were in the division. I said, could you please vote for me? I just don't want to be embarrassed that I get no votes. And interestingly enough, I actually won. I think those 5 votes mattered. And this is something I learned. I gave it my all. I put a lot of effort into it. I really took advantage of the opportunity. And more importantly, I learned how the organization operated. And I started to grow my voice. And, I started out very shy and listening and learning, but I started to meet people and make friends within the organization. And it's been my home within APA for the past dozen or so years, probably a little longer at this point. And yes, longer at this point, probably about 15 years. Wow. And time flies. And sadly, Mike passed away right around that time. He passed away in 2009. And I had to, he said he'd be there for me, but I figured it out and I took initiative. And after being VA section chair, which afforded me many really nice opportunities, I then I organized, we started our own conference. I was the conference organizer for that. And I ran for our division president and I won that. So I won that election. And so I did 3 years of president-elect, president and past president. And then I ran for the council seat. And for 6 years, I was the council rep representing Division 18 on the APA Council, which I then learned a whole tremendous amount of information about professional psychology, about APA, and how APA operates, how divisions operate. It was eye-opening for me. And one of my opportunities as a division president-elect was I got to go to APA State Leadership Conference. And this is a favorite story I'd love to tell. And when you go to the State Leadership Conference representing a division, one of the first things you do is you go find your state delegation. So I go find the Connecticut delegation, and there's a bunch of people from Connecticut Psych Association, and they're at the table. And the first thing they asked me was, "Are you a member of CPA?" And I said, "Yes, I've been a quiet member for many years." And you could see the relief on their faces, like, "Oh, welcome." And they actually took me under their wing. And shortly, I sat with them for 2 years doing this work as a division representative for 2 years. And then they asked if I would become the federal advocacy coordinator for CPA. And I did that for a couple of years. And then when Christopher Rigling was the president of CPA, but he and his partner moved to Chicago for work opportunities, I became I finished his term and as president, and then became president and did another term and a half as president of CPA. So I really think if you hear that story, all of my work within Division 18 and then CPA really sort of came together nicely. So it's been a really incredible journey. And knowing what I know now about how APA works, how divisions work, how state associations work, I can't tell you how important this work is. No one else is protecting our profession and protecting public mental health the way professional organizations do. Membership is so important and involvement is so important. CPA, unlike APA, is really a volunteer-based organization. We have very little staffing, and I'm continually amazed about what CPA does. Like, it's such a team effort, as you know, and it's been really rewarding. And I also think that so much more happens on the state level than the federal level. I think the voice that CPA plays in the state legislature and the relationship that our team builds, and I'm really talking our lobbyists and Trisha and Lisa, our executive management from our executive management company, they built such strong relationships in Hartford, and we benefit from it. And then our legislative committee chaired by Marcy Kane is so critical to protecting our profession and to really advancing mental health parity and so many important issues on the table. So I have utmost respect for what CPA really does and means for psychologists.
Exactly. It's so valuable, and people like you and many colleagues that are doing this beautiful work, and your involvement for almost 19 years, it's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you. I haven't been involved with APA and CPA at this level for that long,
Got it.
but it's been, it's not just, this is truly a team effort, and it's not just the work we do, it's the work we do together. It's the friendships I've made, the connections I've made. Wow. I have such respect for so many people in our field. I've gotten to know so many incredible people who are doing such important work. And it's very uplifting when you hear some of the accomplishments over the years, like what Jan Owens Lane has done for our field, for our CPA, for our profession. And there's so many people like Jan who do incredible work, and who create programs, and who, it's just very inspiring. And likewise, people will call me and say, oh, can I have a referral? Well, if I don't know I know many kind, compassionate, brilliant psychologists. And so I have no problem recommending folks. But if I don't have a referral, I just pick up my phone and give a quick call to a colleague friend. And CPA has truly become a family to me in so many ways. So it's just, I've had so much respect for our colleagues, and also so much, just such a richer professional life, and a life in general, because of all these friendships and connections.
Beautiful. Richer professional life, and in general life, a richer life, being involved with these kind of activities.
Yes.
Wow. Dr. Klee, thank you so much for your beautiful expression, for the information, for all your accomplishments, and thank you for your time for this interview. We look forward to continue working at CPA with you.
Thank you, Shiva. It's been nice talking with you.
Bye-bye.